Why are they doing this to us? Now get this, guys. As U.S. hospitals brace for possibly the worst C-19 winter yet, and Dr. Fauci is warning that a new, even more dangerous C-19 variant could come out this winter, what does the NIH do? They give a $600,000 stimulus check to the company that may have caused the global pandemic with their experimentation on the bat C-19 viruses. And what are they going to do with the big fat payout opportunity from Uncle Sam? Well, they're going to experiment some more on bat C-19 viruses. Is that what you guys want? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, if you and your family own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. The link is in the description down below. Do not ever be caught off guard by another very expensive home repair again. Get your free home warranty quote, link down below. Yep, guys, you heard it right. In August, research money with EcoHealth Alliance was terminated after they kept the records critical to the C-19 origin probe. Fast forward 1 month, it got a brand new grant. And get this, they're going to use the American taxpayer dollars as stimulus checks to do risky bat C-19 virus surveillance research, even though the reason they lost the first grant was because they failed to provide records that were essential to the investigation into the origin. Clearly, this makes no sense. Now, apparently, the EcoHealth Alliance has refused to turn over laboratory notebooks and other records as required. And if they have other investigators interested behind the scenes, the company got new funding from the NIH to identify areas of potential concern for future pandemic emergence in order to help public health authorities suppress an outbreak before it breaks containment. So the grant is the first installment of the 5-year award totaling $3.3 million. And it was doled out the same day NIAID awarded EcoHealth more than $2.1 million for 2 more ongoing studies, one of which involves so-called gain of function to make viruses more dangerous. So basically, they're getting this company and all the invisible entrepreneurs behind the scenes to look into the C-19 virus, even though they've been proven to hide records of the C-19 virus origin. Even worse, there's also this risk of sparking an outbreak that would not otherwise have occurred. And as I said here, quote, their work may put everyone else's lives on the line along with their own, end quote. Now, the new grant proposes to collect samples of viruses from wildlife and then rapidly supply viral sequences and isolates for the use in vaccine and therapeutic development. And so more than likely, this is going to mean that researchers could ship live viruses around the world, even into the United States. Now, I tell you guys, when will these people ever learn? I wonder how they're going to be shipping these things. Are they going to be using FedEx or UPS? Now, I think this one scientist hit the nail on the head here. Quote, he said it's disturbing that additional funding continues to be awarded to the same high-risk research that may have caused the current pandemic before there's even been a national investigation of the origin of the current pandemic. End quote. So just take a look at the seriousness behind the lab leak theory that's starting back up again.
From a Chinese vassal state, let's talk about a World Health body that became China's accomplice. I'm talking about the World Health Organization. China said the Wuhan virus does not transmit from humans. The WHO believed it. China said there was no lab leak. The WHO's investigators went along with that too, until an outraged global community stood up to question those findings. Now, the WHO is making a sharp U-turn. The World Health body now wants a probe into the lab leak theory. 2.5 years into the pandemic, they've realized that a lot of questions still remain unanswered. And there is a need to look for more evidence, especially in China.
So they've issued some preliminary recommendations to outline studies that need to be conducted so that we have the data, we have better knowledge about what may have happened in the beginning of this pandemic. And what you can see in the report is that they really outline that there's a lot more work that needs to be done in China and elsewhere.
Last year, the WHO said a lab leak was extremely unlikely. Those are the words they used. Now the WHO has recommended a probe into it in the strongest possible words. What has changed? A new team has been appointed to look into the origins of the pandemic. It is called SAGO, the Scientific Advisory Group for the Origins of Novel Pathogens. Experts from 25 countries are part of this. It came together after the first investigation. In 2021, a group of investigators had gone to Wuhan. We told you about it. The probe was compromised from day one. China picked the team that was part of this investigation. It refused to give any raw data. China even pressured the investigators to drop the lab leak theory. By the time the report came out, the outcome was already clear. It was no secret. China not just influenced the investigation, it was practically trying to dictate it. But then came a sudden twist. The WHO Director General refused to accept China's claims. Dr. Tedros praised China's response to the pandemic in the very beginning, remember. But in a rare departure from his usual deference to China, he refused to rule out a lab leak. He even suggested the first assessment was not extensive enough. That's when Dr. Tedros ordered the second round of investigation. In July last year, he said dismissing the lab leak was premature. He also asked China to be more transparent. But as always, Beijing refused to cooperate. Behind the scenes, Dr. Tedros has been sending letters to Beijing. He wrote 2 of them in February this year. The first one went out to Chinese Premier Li Keqiang on the 14th of February. The second one was for Chinese Health Minister Ma Xiaowei. What did Dr. Tedros want from the Chinese? Information about laboratory hypothesis. What kind of information? The WHO won't tell. Did China reply to these letters from Dr. Tedros? The WHO won't tell that either.
Now, this company, EcoHealth Alliance, they funded studies in Wuhan, the Chinese city where the pandemic began, on manipulated C19 viruses. Now, they call this type of research gain of function, meaning that the viruses that they deliberately engineered to become more dangerous to humans. And get this, the head of the company, Dr. Daszak, he's known to be close to former White House chief medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Are we starting to connect the dots here, guys? Daszak even thanked Fauci for downplaying theories that C19 may have even been created in a lab. Back in April, they did a report into this Dr. Daszak, and they found details of his role in facilitating risky C19 research in China. They outlined how his EcoHealth Alliance raked in millions of dollars in federal grants. And it wasn't just a simple one-pager type of report. It was a long investigation based on dozens of interviews and more than 100,000 leaked internal documents. It detailed how EcoHealth had made money and got entrepreneurs and world governments behind them. And they say that the company originated in a world of murky grant arrangements, flimsy overnight, and the pursuit of government funds for scientific advancement, in part by pitching research of steeply escalating risk. The report also outlined how Daszak and Fauci basically worked together to cast doubt on the lab origin theory and downplay this potential role of risky research that the EcoHealth supported back in Wuhan. All the way back to 2014, the National Institute of Health approved a $3.7 million grant of EcoHealth titled Understating the Risk of Bat C19 Emergence. The research involved gathered bat C19 viruses in China and studying them at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Yeah. Sounds pretty familiar to you guys, right? It says here that they were mixing components of SARS-like viruses from different species to create a novel chimera that was able to directly infect human cells. Daszak has been quite quiet about this whole thing. He even declined to answer questions from lawmakers about EcoHealth's work with the Wuhan lab. Senator Joni Ernst calls it a bad sequel with the same plot and characters, but a bigger budget. And I think he's saying what a lot of us are thinking right here. Quote, "It is obviously batty that NIH will give another cent of taxpayer money to EcoHealth when the group has failed to respond to repeated NIH requests about turning over information about dangerous experiments that it's conducting in China's state-run Wuhan Institute." End quote. They even show how Daszak was just hungry for some government money via Dr. Fauci. He would invite Fauci to EcoHealth events that were described on invitations as educational, despite the fact that nonprofit officials referred to them as cultivation events where they should network with prospective federal funders. They spent approximately $8,000 on each cultivation event. Now imagine if that $8,000 were turned into a stimulus check for American. I mean, just think of what we could have done with that kind of residual income. We could have paid off some of our housing costs, even our credit card bills. We could even have had enough cash flow left over to start a side hustle maybe. Amazon drop shipping, maybe even an e-commerce store. I mean, what do you guys say? Are you tired of all these quack scientists and bureaucrats getting all the stimulus checks? I mean, don't we need some extra money in our SNAP EBT cards or a decent sized Social Security increase for 2023? Just look at where we are right now with this headline. U.S. hospitals brace for an unprecedented winter of viruses. Yup, experts are betting their stimulus checks that this next winter with C19 is going to be way worse because this is our first one that's also expected to include high levels of the flu and other serious respiratory illnesses that have just been lurking in the background for the last 2 years. Already, the CDC has been observing that flu cases are rising in parts of the United States. Pediatricians are also seeing a growing number of children sick with respiratory syncytial virus or RSV and enteroviruses. And even though there is a downward trend in C19, tens of thousands of new cases are still being diagnosed every single day. In fact, this whole crossover of viruses, it's already hitting our healthcare systems, which were already facing staffing issues even before the pandemic. Healthcare workers are quitting at rates 23% higher than when the pandemic began. Doctors talk about nurses on the front lines who just burn out and quit. Others who were in their 50s and 60s who maybe just thought they'd be working for another 5 years took an early retirement. They're calling it a mass exodus of healthcare workers who retired early or moved to a different line of work altogether. But now there's a constant struggle to recruit new people. And get this, in a warning that shook the stock market and could mean more layoffs and bankruptcy, Dr. Fauci said that a new, more dangerous C19 variant could emerge this winter. In his exact words, quote, "We should anticipate that we very well may get another variant that would emerge. That would elude the immune response that we've gotten from the infection and or from vaccination," end quote. Right now, pandemic trends like hospitalizations and deaths, they're down nationwide. Reports of C19 cases have been decreasing steadily since early August. As of October 6th, the average number of new cases per day based on 7-day average is 44,000. This is the lowest that it's been since April. C19 related hospitalizations too continue to tick down. Now, as of October 5th, the average daily number of hospital beds used by a C19 patient was also at its lowest since June, right around 27,000. Now, the 7-day moving average of new C19 deaths in the United States is 323. Now, this is far lower than the country's 1,000 to 2,500 in February and March. But Fauci and Americans should not let their guards down because there's always a risk of an uptick in the winter months. Quote, "It looks like we're going to be heading in the right direction," he said. Although adding, "However, I think it would be a bit cavalier to all of a sudden just say that we're completely through with the pandemic," end quote. Now, wait a minute. Wasn't it President Biden who just said that we're done with the pandemic? So is Fauci throwing some shade toward the president here? Could this be connected to his coming resignation as White House chief medical advisor? Definitely something that we should look into in our future videos, guys. Let me know. Do you still trust our government at this point? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Okay, so going back to Fauci and what he was saying about this new, more dangerous C19 variant. So he pointed to the summer of 2021 when the United States saw similarly low pandemic trends. Then the Omicron variant hit and it caused a record-breaking surge in cases last winter. Since then, a lot of Omicron subvariants have spread and become more dominant in the United States. That includes the BA.5, which currently makes up about 81.3% of all cases that are circulating right now. BA.5 and its predecessor BA.4, they're 3 times less sensitive to antibodies from the original C19 vaccines that even the original Omicron strain. So this is why Fauci is saying that we shouldn't be surprised if another new, more transmissible variant emerges this winter. Now, we've already been seeing new subvariants, including this new one called the BA.4.6. This appears to invade immunity even more effectively than BA.5. And so this is why we're doubling down on the new Omicron-specific C19 booster, saying that it's the more crucial one this winter. All Americans ages 12 and older are eligible for it. Roughly a third of US adults say that they've already gotten a new booster or intend to as soon as possible, according to Fauci. Quote, "We're encouraging people, particularly as we're in the fall season, to get the particular updated vaccine, which fortunately for us is directed at the major circulating variant," end quote. Well, make sure your loved ones are safe, you guys. Get the word out there. Let your friends and family know about this whole C19 situation going on ASAP. Make sure to hit the share button down there. Also, let me know if you want me to cover more about this topic, like how to get some stimulus money or passive income from the government like these scientists are doing. Better yet, we could even be talking about passive income sources that basically come from the government. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions in the coming videos, so just say the word, drop some comments down below for me. But for now, this was our big money update. The $60,000 stimulus checks that's being given to the shady company that hid details about the C19 origin, plus the serious C19 winter that we're about to face, including the possibility of a new, more dangerous C19 variant this winter. Stay safe out there, you guys. And as always, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Very big thanks for lighting up the like button. More exciting updates in the next video. I'll see you guys there.